Hi, my name is Leslie Field. I am a somatic practitioner of embodied movement, and this is my story. This is my personal story and how it connects in with what I do now, what I teach, what I guide. So, I've had the help of AI today for some visuals to help you along with the story. So, this is me. This is AI's version of me. And where this story begins is when I was 18 years old. Now, I apologize if you can't read the words, they're not clear, they're backwards. You don't have to worry about that. They're really just a prompt for me. So, the story begins when I was 18 years old and I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. I didn't know that I had anything wrong with me, and it was through a series of events they were able to figure out that I had elevated creatinine levels, which is one of the indicators that suggests that there might be something going on with the kidneys and the kidney function. So, through a whole host of events, I was able to finally find myself under the care of a nephrologist. And still to this day, I thank that gentleman because I know that he sent me along a really positive path for where I am now. So most people have chronic kidney disease. There's different reasons why it manifests. Everyone's situation is so unique. For me, mine is connected to blood pressure, so hypertension. So they don't know if the disease causes the hypertension or the other way around, but the treatment was always going to be the same. So I've had this condition now for 23 years. When I was diagnosed at 18, they said, well, if we can get 10 years out of your kidneys and keep this disease at bay, that'll be great. Well, here I am over decades later, just saying that, I've been very lucky, very fortunate. Everyone's case and situation is so unique, but this is mine. So for many years, my disease went to sleep. Yes, that's what they told me. Seems like your disease has slowed or the progression of the disease has kind of stopped for now. And they told me my disease went to sleep. So for over 15 years, I've led a very pretty normal life, except knowing that I have this condition going on that I've needed to monitor. Now, I could have eaten a little bit better, maybe taken a little bit better care of myself, but generally speaking, I think I did pretty well. So knowing that this was something I was going to have to deal with, and I am in that moment now. However, before we talk about what's going on now, I want to go back to 2020. So 2020 was the moment when they told me, unfortunately, your kidney values are changing. It looks as though you're losing function very slowly and that the disease is progressing again. So that was a really, really challenging time. So remember, 2020, we have this virus going around. There's this pandemic. Stores are closing, schools are closing. Everyone's hunkering down together. And I was being told that I needed to get into a kidney transplant program. Not an easy moment. So after we moved back from New York City to Southern California, I had to get into a kidney transplant program. And that's something people don't realize. You can't just walk into a hospital and say, I need a kidney transplant. But also during that time, it was exceptionally challenging. I was saying goodbye to an entire life that I knew to land back in a place that I had grown up and lived for many years. However, I couldn't really find those new connections. It was very hard to cultivate my relationships with my friends and family because of the distancing rules and the fear around getting unwell and my body and how that all would all work. So it was a really, really dark time for me. I really struggled with depression. I was the person who couldn't get off the couch. I always judged those people. I never understood it. What do you mean you can't get off the couch? It was really a challenge to get out of bed. And I walked through that for over a couple years. I personally decided not to medicate. I wanted to just be present and live within it. And it was a big teacher. It was really dark. It was really tough. And one of the things that got me through it was talk therapy. But the other thing that got me through it was my movement practice. Not to mention my friends and my family and all the beautiful blessings I have. But this right here was the constant thing that I had along with my talk therapy that I was noticing was giving me relief, was helping me sort of excavate out a lot of stuck and stagnant energy that felt really heavy. And it was my talk therapist who was the one who reflected that. She was the one who said, every time you go to this movement practice, a big realization happens, or you're able to let something go, or you feel differently about something, or you're able to solve something that we couldn't figure out in here, but now you have a different perspective. And so it was through her reflection that I started to say, wow, this movement practice is doing something really deep and really meaningful. And I got to keep doing it. So I have been doing it for 10 years now, and it really has been by my side this whole time. It's the one practice I go back to again and again, even the days where I'm like, oh, I don't want to show up, or, oh, I have better things to do than to, breathe, be present with my body, get quiet, get still, and then find, movement, how my body wants to move. Even I talk myself out of it. And I love to practice for me, and I love to teach. So that's when I decided to mentor with my teacher. My teacher, Erin Pace of the Responsive Body Practice. I had been a student of hers for now a decade, and I said I would like to be one of your first student teachers. So a couple years ago, we started mentoring together so I could bring forth one of the movement practices I teach, which is called sacred embodiment. So it's been life-changing. And especially now, coming into our present moment, you may or may not know this about me, but I need a kidney transplant, and I am preparing for transplant. And that is going to be happening at the end of July, which is a big deal. However, for as much as it's been a very long journey figuring this out and how I was going to get this transplant and when and where and all of that, I have a lot of anxiety and fear around it. So there's a lot of joy and relief, but there's also a lot of anxiety and fear. So that brings me into my present moment and talking about the present moment, the sweetness of the present moment. That was a beautiful sentence that my mentor shared with me when I was in practice, when I was a student just this week. And I really needed to hear that and really feel into and have space for the sweetness of the present moment. Our lives are very busy. There's lots of responsibilities, commitments. There's lots of dings and bings and distractions. And sometimes that sweetness of the present moment is really fleeting. But it was so lovely because I was given an experience in a class to just live in it. And in that present moment, I wasn't focusing on what was and the journey I've been on. I wasn't thinking about what's coming. I just got to live and breathe right there and move my body. And that's when I started to dialogue with my fear. The fear that's been feeling like this 1,000-pound weight of like, what is going to happen? Remember, kidney transplants, although they're a really beautiful thing, they're a life-saving treatment, it is a treatment. So I'm swapping a whole host of things I have to manage and consider now for a whole other set of things I need to manage and consider in the future. I will take all the prayers and all the well wishes, please, because I really, really am hoping this kidney lasts me for the rest of my days. Although they typically have a lifespan, but let's go for the rest of my days. Sorry, little loud, outside, California. They love the helicopters to flying over my house. So the sweetness of the present moment, I was able to, again, dialogue and feel into that fear. How often do we have a place or space where like, okay, today's the moment, let's feel into that fear now? And great, we have talk therapy, but talking is very different than feeling and experiencing and breathing with something, feeling into it, really getting acquainted with what is that fear. And because I was given the space and time and then permission to do that, I gave myself permission. My beautiful mentor helped create that beautiful container to do it. It didn't feel like that 1,000-pound weight. I was actually gifted a really beautiful image that made a lot of sense. And it sort of has helped me somewhat transform that fear. So it feels different. It doesn't feel so oppressive. It feels a bit lighter. It feels like I can manage it. It doesn't feel like it's front and center anymore. And so that's bringing us into present day and how even I still practice because I know the benefit. I know the somatic, visceral, deeply felt feeling of how this movement practice can transform things, can heal things, can shift things, can make things feel lighter. So that's why I teach. This is my beautiful logo that I created that should give you maybe a little essence and feel about, what you might experience in a sort of somatic embodied movement class. And everyone's experiences will be different. And I should say in the beginning, sometimes there's a lot of things that have been not tended to and they've been held on to in your body, in your emotional self, in your mental space. And so sometimes you have to clear out some of that junk and some of that trash But in time, the body learns. It knows to just let it flow through. It gets lighter. It gets easier. And then you can access all these other parts of you that maybe were getting quieted or not sort of, they weren't as available to you because you're pushing down all the other stuff, the fear, the grief, the anger. You're holding that. That takes some actual energy to hold that at bay. So sometimes it's hard to feel the other stuff, joy, awe, pleasure. It's all there waiting for you. It's just opening yourself to an experience, coming into a space where you can do that safely and in your own time and gently. And that's what I provide for people. So thank you if you made it this long to hear my story. Currently, all of my offerings are on Eventbrite. Otherwise, you can head to my website, leslieafield.com. I'm going to be releasing a few more just sort of videos about how maybe you can explore movement in your body. And so I hope to welcome you in a class soon, although they will be pausing for a while I go under this kidney transplant. I'll be back in the fall. So I'm Leslie Field, somatic practitioner of embodied movement, moving to feel and heal the whole you.